Men don't cry. When we observe little boys and girls, they cry just as much as each other, but at the age of 7 or 8, boys stop. They're told to stop. They're not allowed. Ladies and gentlemen, boys are raised by a singular image of what it is to be a man. It's an ancient image that tells boys to be strong, fearless, and to deny their emotions. I see it every day in the locker room, where boys pick on the weakest kid, throwing their clothes around, flushing them down the toilet, pushing their victim to tears with the all too familiar taunts. Grow up, be a man, have a cry. And everyone else stays silent as a soldier. Every day, boys work to build this facade, an indestructible armor that satisfies the expectations of the boys and the men around them. But behind that steely exterior, the wall of pride, of strength, the performance of masculinity, that's where we bury our tears. Because it's unacceptable to fall outside this narrow definition of male identity. And if anyone does, they are teased, they are bullied, they are bashed into silence. We've been told to fear our differences, to hide our weaknesses. Psychologists have found that 79% of boys report experiencing bullying over their identity alone. So as young men grow up, we put on our mask and we suck it up. When a man is stuck at work with chronic back pain, anxious about meeting a deadline, and unable to spend time with his loved ones, he's told by other men to grin and bear it. When a teenager in one of my classes got emotional about a recent breakup, we told him to suck it up and stop crying. And when I told my primary school friends that I was a dancer, I was laughed at for being a girl. This is a culture born out of the locker rooms, playgrounds, and boardrooms of the world. The spaces dominated by men, unchecked by authority, where boys copy the violent language and actions passed down by their coaches. And it's schools that constantly push boys to fulfill a specifically male image of strength and success that's caused severe misinformation and undereducation. Strict behavioral codes that equate seeking help to weakness has led to mass underreporting of mental illness, with suicide now the leading cause of death for men aged 16 to 30. Because guys are too afraid to speak up when they grow up and learn in places where they're bullied and bashed for appearing vulnerable and weak. And those that do deliver health information do so through the guise of building better men. The best we can muster for a campaign promoting men's health is a month where men are encouraged to grow mustaches. And have you ever heard any information about men's health, had serious discussions, or even heard some statistics? Even when we get the bare bones of a discussion, every facet of school life and male-targeted programs are specifically and narrowly male, leaving those identities that fall outside the realms of the tough and the buff to be left by the wayside. But these stories and experiences don't end when we leave school. They've shaped the way men grow and act, fueling an epidemic of rape culture and domestic violence. The culture that told men to be dominant and authoritarian has fueled the idea that men are strong and women are weak, that men must be in control and women must be subservient. Last year, college fraternities led violent campaigns promoting sexual abuse. The slogan, "No means yes," was plastered on banners and chanted by fraternity members. And at Yale, boys posed for photos outside the Women's Center crying, "We love Yale sluts." What kind of a society creates men like these? And in Australia, we're facing our own epidemic of domestic violence. A violence born out of the pressure placed on men to deny their emotions, leading them to justify deplorable acts of violence as a means of expression. A justification that murders 2 women every week in Australia. Men, in their need for control and show assured of their dominance, treat women as objects to be disciplined. It's time to start listening to people who've experienced these problems. People like Rosie Batty, who've told us that ultimately these violent cultures are born out of the environments in which boys are raised. Because we've created a single image of masculinity that doesn't allow boys to feel comfortable in their own skin. It's these environments that we need to change. We need spaces in workplaces where men are comfortable speaking about their problems. We need to start conversations in classrooms about why it's okay to cry. Primary school-aged boys that don't always fit in have to be told that it's okay to be yourself. They must know that they're not defined by their gender. So why don't men cry? Because that would rust the armor, the mask of masculinity. We need to tear that armor off our skin. Now is the time to cry.